Yes, good morning. Savva here from Football Heritage TV. Today, what I want to talk about, good morning to you wherever you are. Good morning if you're in the UK, good evening if you're somewhere else, and good afternoon if you're somewhere else. Hello. What I want to talk about today, it was interesting. I put out a video yesterday talking about what signings do Tottenham need, like in terms of the calibre of player that we need, not just what positions, but the calibre of what we need. And it was really, really interesting, the comments that come back. I mean, we've got, as always, quite a divided fan base. You've got people that are very happy with how things are going and it's all great. You've got other people who are not as happy. Then you've got the people that are in the middle. And that's natural, right? That's going to be most fan bases. However, the Spurs fan base has pretty much been like this for as long as I can remember, and especially under Daniel Levy, etc. Some people think he's done really well. Other people think he's done really bad. Other people appreciate the business side of what he's done for the football club, but don't like the football side of what he's done for the football club. And that's where I sit. I sit in the middle. I don't want him at the football club. I can acknowledge what he's done. I can acknowledge what he's done for the local area. I can acknowledge what he's done for our training ground and our stadium and for the stability of the football club. But I also acknowledge that the guy has overseen our longest trophy drought for nearly 100 years and has never ever kicked us on. Anyway, that's the fan base. We're quite divided. Now, the reason I talk about that is a lot of the comments I got back yesterday were very, very interesting. There were people that were saying, oh, Timo Werner's brilliant. Stop having a go at him. Cool. Oh, Brennan Johnson will come good. You're so negative you don't like him. Cool. Then you were getting people on the complete flip side saying, Savva, it doesn't really matter who we buy if we continue to play these tactics. Now, this is a really interesting one for me, which is why I wanted to do the video, because there is that school of thought, isn't there? There's the school of thought of you could buy the best players in the world, but if we play this tactic and if we keep being this open, we will still lose games. Now, I didn't say that. I'm just saying what people have come back to me with. So I wanted to discuss that this morning. And as I've said, does Ange need to adapt his tactics? By the way, that's a question. That's not me saying he 100% does. I think there's tweaks that are needed. I'm just asking the question. As I've said, armchair football managers. By the way, when people call you an armchair football manager, we're all armchair football managers. We've all got opinions on our football club. It's not me. Just because my face is on YouTube doesn't mean that we're not all sitting in the pub or at home or at the stadium going, I wouldn't have picked him. I would have played him. We're all armchair football managers, if you want to call it that. So let's have a look. When Ange Postecoglou came into the club, one of the things that I was happy about was, right, we're going to move away from this kind of this dross style of football that we've been playing. Now, we can go back years and do this and talk about, well, it wouldn't have been dross if Conte and Jose, for example, had been given the calibre of players they wanted in order to win. That's a different argument. That's a different debate. Whilst I don't disagree with that, we'll be here forever if we talk about that. But part of it was, look, Ange is going to come in and he likes to play attacking football. His teams, they run hard, they work hard, they create, they score. They're well drilled. And that was part of what I was actually looking forward to when Ange Postecoglou came in. Other people at the time were very much going, well, hang on. It's easy to do that when you're the manager of Celtic, but this is a different level. This is the Premier League now. Every week you're not playing, and no disrespect, Rafe Rovers and Livingston and Motherwell. Every week you're playing Aston Villa, Man City, Newcastle, Chelsea, Liverpool, United. Apologies if I've missed anybody's club there. No offence meant. I just can't, a lot of teams. And I think that's what I found. That's what I found from the tactics, which I found really interesting. And I'll break this down. The first 10 games of the season, you've got the people that are going, oh my God, look how good we were. He had everyone fit. Look how good we were. We were swarming all over teams. There was a lot of interchange. We had the inverted fullbacks, which apparently at the time really, really suited Porro and Udogie. You had Basuma picking the ball up deep and turning and driving. Sarr was pulling out to cover. Maddison was dictating games, and it was all very, very interesting. And you've got other people that say, well, that only worked because it was the element of surprise. And people didn't really know what to expect from Tottenham Hotspur. as always, I think the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. I do think that people were surprised. I don't think they were expecting Spurs to come out the blocks and have that type of energy. Equally, I do feel that it was a bit of a false economy and wasn't sustainable. Now, we then suffered the injuries, right? We suffered the injuries in the Chelsea game, which then gave our fan base this massive excuse for the rest of the season. We lost 3 or 4 really important players, but that's nothing. Newcastle, Chelsea, Man United, Bournemouth, these clubs had, Liverpool, these clubs had horrendous injury lists. So for me, I don't think you can just say, oh, the Chelsea game, we lost these players. That goes down to piss poor planning. Yeah, if you lose 2 centre-backs and that's your season over, that goes down to piss poor planning. But less of that. So my point is this. We've seen a tactic adopted by Ange, which for me is just a bit way too over the top. I think he's trying to be way too clever. Just my personal opinion. I think that what we're seeing here is everyone wants to be a version of Pep Guardiola. Everyone wants to be able to invert. Everyone wants to be able to do the winning the ball back in 3 or 4 seconds and completely dominate possession. Not everyone can do it. Whether that's lack of managerial ability, that's not Postecoglou, that's many managers. Whether it's lack of quality in the actual playing staff. You know, you can't just put out average players and expect that they're going to be able to play the Man City way, so to speak, or the old Barcelona way, the Pep way, so to speak. So for me, I quite liked what he started trying to do. But I think the difficulty with anything in life is when things are going well, it's great, right? Life's easy. When things are going well, life is easy. It's when you hit those roadblocks, it's when you hit those obstacles and barriers, that's where I think you see the making of somebody. That's where I think you see, right, how good is that person at what they do? And unfortunately for me, this is where, and this is my opinion before I ask you your opinions, this is where for me, I think we saw that Ange was very limited in terms, I don't know whether it's limited or stubborn or just truly believes in his style of football so much that he thinks, no, we're not changing. We're going down this path. That's what we're doing. Naive, if you ask me. That's only me. So we had this mixed season, didn't we, of some brilliant games at the beginning of the season where everyone, I think, lost their mind, starts talking about winning titles. Then we had this really poor second half to the season, really, really average. And that's not my opinion. Look at the facts. Look at the number of goals conceded. Look at the number of points dropped, the number of games lost. The second half of the season was average, to say politely. And he didn't adapt. He didn't change. Now, one of the big things that's thrown at it is that it's an attacking style of play, which is why we let in so many goals. I disagree. I don't think we are that attacking. I think we have a lot of possession for possession's sake. A lot of games where you look at Spurs and say, right, you've had 70%, 68%, 73%, but not really going in there with it. A lot of sideways backwards, a lot of Werner and Kulu cutting in, pulling it back, a lot of the centre-halves passing it around each other at the back. That's fine, but in order for that to be successful, you've got to have those moments up top. You've got to have those moments where the front three come into their own and go, bish, bash, bosh, done. And I don't think we've got that. The other thing that's thrown at this team is how wide open it is. Now, I don't think the staunchest of Spurs fans that always wants to be positive could deny this. We're really not very good defensively. Now, we can blame this on the personnel at the back. We can blame this on the tactics, on the shape of the team. But the facts are, we let in a lot of goals. And that is one of two things. That is either going to be the caliber of the players playing or the manager's tactics. It has to be something. And the problem that I find is we want to tell everyone, Porro, Udogie, Van der Ven, Romero, they're amazing. Cool. Ange is great, doesn't need to change his tactics. Cool. If both of those things are true, why did we concede 60-plus goals? So for me, I definitely think there needs to be tweaking in these tactics. Let me know your opinions. That's why I'm doing this. I want to know what are your opinions. Guys, when you come back to this, please talk football. If I've said something that you think is negative or you disagree with, just say, I disagree with that because of X, Y, Z. It doesn't always have to be an attack. It doesn't always have to be, oh my God, you negative mug, go away, right? Just talk the football point. One of the other things we talk about a lot, we see it every show when people talk about what do Spurs need? What do Spurs need to sign? You hear this. We need a 6. We need a number 6 or a defensive midfielder, whatever. I don't believe in all this 6, 8, 10 nonsense. Midfielders are midfielders, but we need a defensive midfielder that sits in front of that back four and protects. We need a Paulinho. We need a Declan Rice. We need a Rodri. We need a whoever, right? We need that type of player. We need an Ederson. But then when you talk to all the people that have followed Celtic recently and followed Ange throughout his career, they'll be the first ones to tell you Ange doesn't play with a 6. So if we've got a manager that doesn't play with a 6 and we're that wide open, I want to know what's the plan moving forward to stop leaking goals? Because you could do whatever you want going forward. If you concede this many goals, you are not going to ever be challenging. You're going to be nowhere near it, and you're not going to win trophies because teams will figure it out like they did in the second half of that season. They figured out how to get behind us and how to score goals against us relatively easy. And Romero's a good defender. Van de Ven's a good defender. There's no way that in a normal tactical setup, Romero and Van de Ven are part of a back four that let in 60-plus goals. So that, for me, tells me, that was positive, by the way, about Van de Ven and Romero. That tells me that this is on the tactics. That tells me that we have not worked out yet how do we protect that back four. Now, the difficulty you've got is you've got no number 6. This is my opinion. And armchair football managers, I'd love to know your opinions on this. You've got no number 6 or DM, whatever you want to call it, to protect. Plus, you've got both fullbacks who are naturally wide players that want to play with width and attack, cutting in. So now what you've got is you've got 2 centre-halves at the back with no DM in front of them. Both channels are wide open for teams to run into, and you saw every team did that against us. You're going to concede goals. So for me, the question goes back to, does Ange need to adapt his tactics? For me, it's an overwhelming yes. I think he needs to adapt, tweak, whatever word you want to apply. But for me, something's got to be done. I don't think you can invert both fullbacks. You watch most teams, most of the top managers in the world, they'll invert one, and then the third, and then the other fullback tucks in to make it a free, to make it a bit more solid. But Ange inverts both, which for me is suicidal defensively in football terms. I think that's suicidal. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Can we do that? Can we invert both fullbacks into central midfield whilst having only 2 centre-halves and no DM to protect them? Is that sustainable long term? Some people might think it is, which is fine. I'd love to hear why you think it is. Some people will think it's not. Tell me why. Why is it not? Is it somewhere in the middle that it just is what it is? The last thing I would say about this is lots of people have been talking lately, and I think it's an interesting talking point, is it's funny that under Antonio Conte, we played wing-backs when we didn't have wing-backs or good centre-halves. Now we're in a position where we've got 2 bloody good wing-backs in Porro and Udogie, right? That for Sporting Lisbon and Udinese, respectively, whenever you watch them, they were flying down those wings in wing-back positions, terrorising, scoring goals, assisting, right? We don't give them that. So for me, as much as I think they're good footballers, I don't think we're getting anywhere near the best out of Udogie and Porro. I think they're very good footballers, but for me, I think we're wasting them. They should be out there. For me, they should be out wide, hugging touchlines, getting forward, i.e. like an Andy Robertson would, yeah? Like a Reece James would, yeah? Get out, hug that touchline, go and overlap the inverted wingers. That's just my feeling. And then you've got Dragusin, Van de Ven and Romero that I think would be a fantastic back three. I truly do. Van de Ven on the left, bringing the ball out and covering the fullback. Romero on the right, bringing the ball out and covering the fullback. And Dragusin as your main guy that sits, heads everything away. He's your warrior. He's your, let's not bring it out as such. He's the guy that remains steady in his position. For me, that then allows, this is just a theory, right? That then allows width, people at the back. You've got two in midfield, which it doesn't matter so much if one is a defensive midfielder because you've now got three centre halves. So you've got cover. You've got Van der Ven, Romero and Dragoshin, right? So one almost goes in and acts as a six at times. Then more importantly than all of this, and this is the last thing I'll say before I hand it over to you guys for comments, that allows James Maddison to actually do what James Maddison was bought to do. That allows James Maddison to sit in the hole behind the front two and actually create and not have everybody in his way. He's got no inverted wingers in that formation coming in and blocking him. He's got no fullbacks that push into midfield and block him. When James Maddison looks up, and I'm not excusing, some of his games he was terrible, but when you've seen James Maddison at his best, it's where he's got space to operate in. The number 10, how Ericsson used to do it. We see him in that. He's at his best when he's got the ball, picks it up, and there's not 5 or 6 Spurs players all within a 20-yard radius. Give him some options. Make the runs. Give him 2 out balls out wide with Porro, with Udogie. Just a theory. It's just something that I would look at. So, all in all, let me know. Does Ange need to adapt his tactics? Can his current tactics continue to work? Is it a player personnel problem? Is it both? Are we being naive? Can this kind of gung-ho defense, non-defensive style ever succeed in the Premier League? Let me know your thoughts. And before anyone says, oh, Pep does it at Man City, if you actually watch, Pep always has Vardiel or Ake as a left-back who tuck in so that when John Stones goes to play in midfield or Walker goes to play in midfield, he's got 3 solid centre-halves. Guys, girls, let me know what you think. Join in the debate. Let's have football chat. Let's not abuse. Let's have some football chat. All right? Take care, everyone. And as always, come on, you Spurs.